Do you want to know what it's like to be alone in the most isolated place on the planet? We can only promise you total privacy and space in that spot. Jokes aside. A one-way ticket on Air New Zealand Flight 30 will cost you roughly $750. It's similar to an overnight flight that you take off in the evening from Auckland, New Zealand and land in the late morning in Buenos Aires, Argentina, all on the same day. Despite traveling for more than 11 hours, you arrive 4 hours ahead of schedule due to the international dateline. The whole flight time is 1 hour. You will travel 10,564 kilometers, 6,564 miles, and through 10 time zones. You should bring an enjoyable novel and a couple of movies with you because there isn't much to view outside the window. After all, the ride is almost entirely across miles of the empty Pacific Ocean. However, about halfway into that void, you'll come across the planet's most distant place. As you soar through the skies at 39,000 feet above the desolate southern Pacific, you will pass over Point Nemo, the most remote location on Earth. At this Point Nemo, there is nothing to see. And that is the whole point. There is nothing but 9 million square miles of ocean surrounding this precise set of GPS coordinates. It is the most remote spot on Earth from any land you may be. Researchers have been able to calculate the accurate distance between different locations as a result of Earth surveying. Naturally, there are locations on the planet that are far from other livelier places and are more lonely and isolated. For example, the inhabited South Atlantic island Tristan da Cunha is about 1,200 miles farther than the closer other populated islands St. Helena and about 1,600 miles from the closest continent, South Africa. When compared to this stretch, Tristan da Cunha is the world's most remote inhabited site. The true seclusion of Point Nemo, often known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, is challenging to define. Because at its core, our minds are unable to properly fathom the magnitude of the place where it is located. That may be what makes it so enticing as a setting for fiction novelist H.P. Lovecraft. He used it as the planet of Cthulhu's home, and the story-driven band Gorillaz identifies Point Nemo as their prior domicile and recording studio. Naturally, the maps we grew up on studying place a greater focus on landmass than our vast oceans. The immense Pacific Ocean, on the other hand, occupies nearly all of the planet's surface, leaving little space between the Americas and East Asia. This is especially true in the area dividing Oceania and South America, where tropical oases are few and far between. If you happen to find yourself drifting around Point Nemo in the far South Pacific, you probably won't want to stay there for long. The average water temperature is 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The ocean bottom is 2.5 miles straight down or 13,000 feet below the ocean surface. The distance to the nearest land is incredibly long, about 1,600 miles. Even still, your options do not appear enticing. To the north is Ducie Island, a tiny, desolate island with only 0.27 square miles of land. To the south lies Mayher Island, another tiny, desolate island off the coast of Antarctica. You will need to head northeast to Easter Island, which is still one of the world's most remote inhabited islands. If islands aren't your thing, you can go 2,100 miles to the Chilean coast or 3,000 miles to return to New Zealand. The astronauts aboard the International Space Station, which is floating just out of reach 249 miles above your head, would be the closest human being to you if you were to find yourself in the waters off Point Nemo and aching for a discussion, would be the closest humans to you. Point Nemo is the most remote area of the ocean, often known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. The location is surrounded by over 1,000 miles of water in all directions, putting it in the middle of nowhere. One of the Pitcairn Islands, one of the Easter Islands, and one island off the coast of Antarctica are the three landmasses closest to the pole. Point Nemo is not only remote from other people, but also devoid of animal life due to its location. Indeed, it is the deadest place in the water, according to oceanographer Stephen DeHaan. There are no human settlements anywhere around Point Nemo. Scientists named the location Nemo after the submarine captain from Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea because Nemo is Latin for no one. Because the place is so distant, the nearest inhabitants to Nemo are not even on Earth. According to the BBC, the International Space Station is currently over 250 miles above the Earth's surface. Because the nearest populated region to Point Nemo is more than 1,000 miles away, humans in space are far closer to the pole of inaccessibility than those on Earth. It's amid the South Pacific Gyre, a massive rotating circulation that encompasses an area twice the size of North America. The middle of the gyre is a calm zone, with little wind and current activity. As a result, the water lacks nearly all nutrients required to support any organic environment. The seafloor beneath Point Nemo is devoid of all life, even microscopic life, because there is no biological life in the water or air above, preventing bacteria on the seafloor from feeding on organic material. This enormous area of the Earth is unfriendly to biological life near the core of the South Pacific Gyre, transforming it into a massive maritime desert. A lack of current or wind flow in the gyre center prevents nutrient-rich water from entering and supporting smaller organisms. The South Pacific Gyre is a massive desert, with Point Nemo at its heart. Even if Point Nemo doesn't have so much marine life, you might find something more interesting. Over 260 satellites and spacecraft lie scattered in charred and ripped fragments across the seafloor beneath Point Nemo. Because of its remoteness, Point Nemo is usually chosen by space agencies throughout the world as a crash re-entry location for obsolete satellites, rockets, and space stations. Because there is no populated terrain for more than 1,600 miles in either direction, the chances of a piece of space debris harming a person or property are low. Only 20 to 25 tons of the 143 tons of material used to construct MIR survived re-entry and ended up on the ocean floor. Because Point Nemo is the farthest spot on the planet, there are no commercial routes. You will be completely disappointed if you went there. There are only vast stretches of open sea. There are no anchored markers or anything of the sort. But when you visit Point Nemo, you can take satisfaction in the fact that you are in a spot that is more difficult to travel to. Due to enhanced geo-targeting programs, Point Nemo was located for the first time in 1992. Orve Lukatala, a Croatian-Canadian engineer, determined the coordinates of the farthest ocean point using self-created geospatial computer software. There have been several mysteries surrounding Point Nemo. Scientists were taken aback in 1997 when they heard one of the loudest submarine sounds ever recorded near the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, because Point Nemo is located in the least ecologically active region of the world ocean. The sound was recorded by submarine microphones positioned more than 3,000 kilometers apart. Scientists from the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, were baffled as to what may be large enough to generate such a loud sound underwater. They dubbed the mystery sound the bloop. However, sci-fi fanatics soon came up with one explanation. Author H.P. Lovecraft portrayed the creature's home as the lost city of Riley in the South Pacific Ocean in the 1926's The Call of Cthulhu, which introduced readers to the legendary titular tentacled monster. Lovecraft assigned Riley the coordinates of 47 degrees 9 south, 126 degrees 43 west, strikingly similar to those of Point Nemo and the bloop. Given that Lovecraft's sea monster Riley was first described in 1928, more than a half-century before Lukatella found Nemo's location, some have suggested that the pole of inaccessibility was home to an as-yet undiscovered species. The bloop, on the other hand, was subsequently revealed to be the sound of ice splitting off the coast of Antarctica, not the Call of Cthulhu. However, Point Nemo may have at least one more creepy story to tell. Because of its isolation and separation from major trade lanes, the region surrounding Point Nemo may be chosen to serve as a spaceship cemetery. The concept of open space might be difficult for humans to grasp. Background music to fill silence, hobbies to fill boredom, and things to fill space all appear to be part of our innate desire to fill the emptiness. We admire people who live simpler lifestyles, but we rarely take on the challenge ourselves. Nothingness is a belief that defies all we know. We are genuinely uneasy about it. Nothingness is not an option. There must be something. We're still intrigued. What is there to say about a place famed for its emptiness? The concept of Point Nemo also intrigued us. The concept of being the most isolated human on the planet while still being connected to the world through modern technology is one of the most mental exercises that makes you pause and think about how giant the globe is and just how little we actually are. A lot of people who have heard of Point Nemo have had strong emotional reactions, either in awe or horror. And that brings us to the end of this video. What do you think about Point Nemo? Does it make you scared or astonished to know more about the world we live in? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to get notified when we post a new video.